yet?
Yeah, that went out like 10 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. Well, let me
Uh,
put it up then. Sorry.
that's all right.
I might have missed it. Ah, there it is. Yeah, let me retweet it.
Although I thought it went out 10 minutes ago, it apparently just went out 20 seconds ago. I don't know how that happened.
It's just because you checked on it.
Right.
Surprise.
All right, we are live. I see us on Twitch and YouTube. So we can start whenever we're ready.
Okay, hang on just a second. And then
Oh,
a
and
text.
Benji isn't surprised. We do live music in stream. So
Oh, okay.
still,
Cool.
I see that.
Just
Tim.
retweeted it out.
All right, thank you.
And you got to dance to the music too. You know that, right? No.
Okay.
Or you can just sit there and stare at us, and it just makes us look goofy, which is normally what happens. It's totally fine. All right, here we go. In 3, 2. Welcome to Nintendo Dads, episode 268, recorded live on February 20th, 2020. On tonight's episode, we're going to talk all the fallout from the huge Animal Crossing Direct that Nintendo graciously provided for us today, as well as January MPD sales numbers and lots more. Also joining us on this week's show, independent game analyst Benji Sales. Jesse, cue that music. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Marty, and you are listening to Nintendo Dads episode 268. And dang, it feels good to be a gangsta. I'm joined tonight by my colleagues here from Nintendo Dads HQ, as well as a special guest. And so let's get right into introducing them. Jesse Waldeck, how are you, brother?
Pretty good. So I realized after I pushed the theme music that I haven't logged into the chat yet. So I logged into the chat and it had logged me out. So now I have to find the login and password while we're talking. So, so if I look distracted, that's what I'm doing.
It's totally fine. Totally fine. Distraction. Nobody on a podcast ever gets distracted.
Impossible.
Especially
It's
us.
impossible. Right. Also joining us this week, all the way from the wonderful land of Minnesota, Tim Alf. How you doing?
Oh, what? I'm distracted. Sorry.
Well, you are from Minnesota, so I mean that would. No, you're
Michigan,
not.
Marty,
I know where
Michigan.
you're from. I know where you're from. It's a running joke on the show now. Just roll with
Yes,
it.
it is. I am. I'm rolling with it. I'm a little frustrated. You know, technology. You know, always has to do something, keep us on our toes. But I'm otherwise good. How about you, Marty?
You know, I'm good. I missed being on the show last week so much that I've thought about being on the show all week. And so I hope you guys miss me as well. I'm just glad to be back. But like last week, things were crazy, and I just, sometimes I have to leave so Gary can come back. It's just, and there's a crazy theory out there that Gary and I are the same person. We are not. Just want to throw that
I
out
think
there.
You guys are somehow two in the same.
It
Sorry,
depends on what
we-
level of
yeah.
caffeine you guys are at one time or the other.
True.
Also joining us on the show this week, we are happy to have a brand new guest to the show, independent games analyst. You know him from Twitter, Benji Sales. How you doing, Benji?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on the show. Really excited to chat. It's kind of crazy. It lined up. I got on the show right on the same day as an Animal Crossing Direct. When you first asked me on, we had no idea that the timing would be like that.
Yeah, the last three guests we tried to time it with a general direct, and you saw how well that worked.
Yeah, still waiting. But you know what? We're not waiting for Animal Crossing news any longer, and we're not going to make you wait for the news any longer on the show either. So, Jesse, let's dive right into that news, shall we? And our news each and every week here on the show is brought to us by our amazing, wonderful 104 active patrons over at patreon.com/Nintendo Dads, where for $1 a month, you can get into one of the best online communities I've ever been a part of. I'm serious when I say that, guys. It is the best online community I've ever been a part of. Amazing things going on over there. Over the last year or so, the community that we've built over there has birthed 3 new Nintendo Dads podcasts that come to you guys on a monthly basis: The Dinner Table, Dads After Dark, and Dad Crossing, which just dropped its beta episode last night, actually right before the direct. Kind of like their hopes and dreams. And you're going to get the first full episode of Dad Crossing next week on Wednesday, and it's going to be on the weeks that Dads After Dark does not happen. So every Wednesday, you're going to get a brand new podcast. Every Friday, you're going to get a brand new podcast. And once a month, Tim is going to give you The Dinner Table, because he likes to sit around the dinner table and talk with his friends. And so, Tim, that's coming up real soon, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
What is the date for this month's Dinner Table?
Well, we usually try to plan it around the third Friday of every month. So I think that would be tomorrow night, even though I didn't put anything out there yet. So
Yeah,
do you want to do it? Do you want to do it tomorrow night, or do you want to punt a week? Because I know things have been crazy for you in your life.
it has been crazy. Yes. I've been toying with the idea of doing something a little bit different this week, but probably would be best to give everybody a moment to figure out if they want to be on the dinner table. So we'll probably do that next week.
February 28th it is. And you can talk about the extra day that we get this year, since it's leap year, which messes up all my calendars. Thanks a lot, leap year. But you can head over to patreon.com/Nintendo Dads. We have tiers starting at $1 a month, $1, $5, $10, $15, and $30. $30 gets you in to be a Patreon producer. And if you've been listening to the show for a long time, you know the whole spiel. We're not going to prolong it any longer, but we love our patrons, and we love all the listeners of the show, but we especially love our patrons for keeping the lights on and keeping things going over here. So, Animal Crossing. Nintendo finally chooses to break its silence with a month to go on the countdown clock. We got a they said roughly 25-minute Animal Crossing Direct. I found it to be probably about that this morning, with tons of new details about Animal Crossing, as well as reiteration of what is going to happen. Gentlemen, I'm just going to get right into this. And Benji, I'm going to ask you, since you're a guest go first on the Nintendo Dads. What did you think about this Animal Crossing Direct? Just your general opinion.
So my general opinion on it was actually, I thought, a very, very strong showing for Animal Crossing. You know, it's interesting because even though I've been playing Nintendo for a really long time, like Animal Crossing specifically was one of their IP that I never just like got really invested in. You know, I've messed with it a little bit, but it was never like my go-to franchise for them. And, you know, ever since the announcement, I thought, well, New Horizons, I think, is going to be the first Animal Crossing, like, I really give a shot, you know, that I, like, really try to put some time into. So I was kind of watching this as more of that, like, you know, casual coming into the franchise person. And I thought it was really strong. You know, I don't know if people that are longtime fans will feel the same way about it that I did. But I thought it looked really good. I thought there was a lot of customization options that looked good. I liked the crafting stuff. I really liked the idea of now you can like edit the island and change it, you know, almost, you know, I've seen people online be like the Minecraft type elements of it. Obviously not, you know, as in depth with the building and stuff as that, but I thought it was really good. I was really impressed. I think they did a really good showing of it.
Yeah. Tim, what about you?
I've been trying to keep that low high hopes, low expectations mentality throughout this whole thing, because there's a lot of negativity around it. And granted, there's a lot of, not say as much negativity as, say, Pokemon was, but there is a lot of frustration behind the online stuff and the backup stuff and all that fun information there. But I've been trying to keep it, like low expectations for it, and I was impressed by what they showed. It was well put together. I wasn't bored at all. Actually, I was watching what Justin was running earlier today when he was doing the live reaction of the direct, so it was very interesting, which I'm sure we'll probably get into, which is the online stuff. It was still kind of vague, but I think I will get this digitally, because I was on the fence of whether I was going to do it digitally or if I was going to get it physically or a hard copy of it. But I think I'm going to do it digital, because it would be nice and easy just to turn it on, do tasks for the day, do what I need to do for the day, and then be done.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that both of you have brought out kind of the tasks or the crafting part or whatever that it seems to me like this game is trying to, the objective with this game is to keep you playing Animal Crossing longer each day.
Yeah.
Instead of just popping in for 30 minutes and popping out, right?
And I did like what they were alluding to for the future, that the game, we're getting the base game, which is going to have a lot of content that you can get used to right off the bat, but that there's going to be more throughout the upcoming 1, 2, or however many years they decide to keep going with it. So I was excited about that as well. Especially, I'm also excited about what they're doing with the phone app. There's some potential there with not only the phone app that's in the game, but making it almost look like you have the same phone app on your real life phone too. So
you glitched out there right there at the very end as you were talking about the phone app.
Of course.
I think I think that was Marty, because I heard you just fine.
Oh, well, then that was me. Sorry about that. Jesse, what about you? What did you think about this presentation?
Well, so before I answer that, I wanted to pick on Justin a little bit, because shortly, either late last night or I think it was sometime yesterday, he tweeted that he would have loved to have seen this followed up with, and then there's a demo today, and then people lost their stuff over it, and
yeah.
Of course, that didn't happen. And so I replied to Justin with, this is why we can't have nice things. No expectations is greater than whatever the hell that was. Yeah, so I went into this literally with no expectations. I didn't expect anything, because honestly, I have no interest in the game. I tried New Leaf. It was fun for a bit. I actually put 20 or 30 or 40 hours into it over the course of like 2 months. But that's not how I like to play my games. I like to play a game start to finish, nothing else in the middle, put the system to sleep mode between sessions, and then just start it up again. I don't like having to save, quit, load the next game, save, quit, load the first game again. So just mainly because of not because of what the game is, but just how I take in games. I don't want to deal with that. I tried it with playing Dragon Quest and the fitness game and the Brain Age game, and that lasted 2 weeks before I got sick of it.
So what you're saying is daily tasks or games that represent daily tasks are not in your wheelhouse.
That is correct. So what I saw, I liked. There was nothing in there that amazed me, but there was nothing in there that surprised me. In fact, most of what I saw, I kind of expected based on what I knew from New Leaf and the history of the game before that. So I didn't see any major surprises. But I know a lot of the reactions, even not only on Twitter but in our own Discord, is "I'm all in. Take my bells now."
Right.
So,
So-
great. I'm happy for you, but yeah, this is not a game for me. Enjoy.
Yeah, so like the direct didn't do anything to make me not want to buy the game. But I was talking about it with some of the Dad Crossing guys earlier, and there is some stuff, and we'll get into it as we talk more about the online stuff and save data stuff that. Like I would love to be a 10 about this game because I love Animal Crossing and I've always enjoyed the vibe of it and have played every Animal Crossing iteration that has come out. And so I would love to be a 10 on this game, but I'm about a 7 or an 8. Like I like what I see. I'm kind of like Benji said, I like what I see. I love the improvements that they're making. There's a lot of quality of life improvements that I think have been coming for years that needed to have come for years. And the thing is that all of those are there now. But for me, there's this shadow over the game based on what we're finding out about save data. But before we talk about that, I want to ask you, just like, do you think that this today was enough? Like, if they don't communicate via a video again between now and March 20th, which it seems like they won't, because during the direct, they basically said all updates will now be given through the official Animal Crossing Twitter. That's supposedly being run by Isabel or Tom Nook now or whoever. Was this enough, in your opinion?
I think so. I really, I do think it was a pretty meaty chunk. I get that it might not answer, everything for all fans, but I did think for a 25-minute, because when they announced the length of it, honestly, that was one thing I was kind of worried about. I was like 25 minutes for one game, the pacing is really going to be key, because if it could get boring quick for 25 minutes of a direct talking about one game. So I thought that was one thing that was very effective about it. I was surprised, like, there was no time during the direct where I found myself just like bored wanting to rush through it. So I think that was a good thing. There definitely is a few issues still, not trying to brush off, like you said, the online saving and things like that. There's definitely some issues, but I think overall for the people they're trying to get the messaging out to, I think it was effective. I think they did a good job. I think it was enough.
Okay. Tim, Jesse, any thoughts about that? Was it enough?
I think it is. In fact, well, I'm kind of the other way around. I don't want to hear anything else. Mainly because I'm not interested in the game. But just like what they end up doing with Pokemon, even though Pokemon's a franchise I'm interested in, I want information, but they get too chatty sometimes, and something like, no, I don't want. Don't stop talking. Just let some things be exciting and don't spoil everything up front. So I think so. So I'm hoping they don't say anything else until in at least in the form of a public direct like that. Twitter at least keeps it contained.
Yeah, I think we'll updates on Twitter.
Yeah, not only it keeps it in the channel, but also probably because things get lost through to everything else going on in Twitter. So, if I miss it, that's no big loss.
Yeah, I like how they were using that at the end there to say we're going to be posting more content about this game on our Animal Crossing Twitter account, which I thought was really cool.
In fact, I checked my accounts and the Nintendo Dad's accounts to make sure that we both follow that already, and we already did. So I didn't have to change. I didn't have to change anything.
And for me, I think it did enough for me, and I think that's where it comes into play, where it's going to be per person, right? Especially with the whole backup save issue. It's going back to how we felt when we were playing a long time with Breath of the Wild and worried about losing those game saves, and we could, if that Switch was going to die, or when what's his name from IGN, when he lost his Switch and lost all that content.
And I lost my Let's Go data and had to start over.
Yeah, so we all have those issues, and we all have those worries. I, knock on wood, I've yet to experience anything where I needed to get that backup data. So, and I'm not saying it won't happen, and I worry about it too, but it's my experiences with Nintendo's products have led me to believe I'll be okay, and that I'll eventually get what they are promoting, to say something's coming. And like I mentioned in the pre-show, I think to me, maybe it's more hoping than thinking. I'm hoping it has something to do with Doug Bowser said last year about a new way of doing the transfers and saving. Maybe, and that's why they have to be vague about it. But I also understand everybody else's gripe about it, that which you guys also said was maybe they really don't know what they're doing, and that's why they had to postpone that part and just get the game out and then work on that part afterwards.
Yeah, so that's the big elephant in the room that I really want to talk about coming out of this. But I thought that before we did that, maybe it would be good for us to just kind of talk about, was there anything in here, like the newer stuff they showed off or the features that they showed off for the game that really made you sit up and take notice? I think for me, the obviously the terraforming is huge, right?
Yep.
It opens up a whole brand new element of Animal Crossing that we've never seen before.
Yeah, we knew up front about you can make paths and things at the ground level, but we didn't know about actually adding hills and lakes or removing lakes. Because that's like populous
cool.
level stuff
building
going on.
Yeah, like being able to build waterfalls and things like that. I mean, it's I think between that and the ability to carry a ladder with you so that you don't have to run around to certain parts of the map just to be able to get up onto another slope. It looks. I also noticed that it looks like that your gear, and by gear I mean like shovels and bug catching nets and all kinds of stuff like that, is in a separate panel than your items, like your backpack. It looked like that there was like a little wheel that pops up around your character now for gear, instead of what I had seen before, which was like this expanded item row that they've had in the past. So it's interesting to see that they're bringing in all of these ideas that have kind of been brewing in the background for a while, right?
Especially in the Animal Crossing community, definitely, yes.
They're kind of just to clarify what you mean by that. It's similar to what they did with Link's Awakening, where they added certain tools to buttons as opposed to having to swap it out of inventory every time.
Yeah, I think so. Like just a little bit of a UI or usability upgrade, whatever you want to call that. I don't know. It looks like that's there. And I want to say that my favorite visual from this entire thing was the museum. Like the museum in this game actually looks incredible. And it looks like it's not just a place for you to go dump stuff, right?
Yeah, it's not just
which it's been in past games.
It's not just a grid of items like it used to be. It's
a destination.
Yeah.
Yes.
Benji, so what about you guys?
I think for me, you touched on a lot of it. I think obviously like the terraforming was kind of the oh wow moment. I think that was for a lot of the streamers and stuff that I saw online that reacted, that was really the moment where they, sat up in their seat. And then one other thing, kind of just touching also on what you were talking about, just like the streamlining of everything. Everything just felt like it's ironed out, smooth, a lot of quality of life improvements. Maybe there's not a ton of things that like blow you away, right? I didn't see a ton of stuff that was just like shocking to me, like, oh man, I can't believe they're doing this. But it just seems like they addressed a lot of the issues that I have seen people complain about over the years. So that was kind of just my main takeaway from it. It seemed like it was a game that, it's adding some new things, but it's also trying to quote, quote, perfect that Animal Crossing formula. That's kind of the vibe I got from it.
My favorite thing was also to how the connectivity between the older stuff was coming about, especially with the Nook Link application that you'll be able to have through the Nintendo Online Switch app. You'll be able to use the Nook Link to be able to use the QR code pattern thing to take some of those patterns you created from the old games and bring them into the new. To me, that was pretty cool. Because I know.
Oh, and like the community that's going to spawn as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The online DIY community for that is going to be huge.
Yeah.
'Cause last week there was conversations in our Discord asking about that. It was like, you can't use QR codes because there's no camera. So what are they going to do? They told us what they're going to do, and I'm kind of impressed.
Phone app.
Really.
Yes.
This is a good use of that
I saw
app.
people talking about today that this is like the
exactly,
very first really good integration of the Nintendo Switch online app into a game.
I would agree with
Yes. And then
That's a good
also-
point. That is a good point. That is a very good point.
that. It only took
the
3 years.
Sure. In the future, with connecting it with camp as well, it looks like they'll have some items
Makes
that
sense.
you can get between the two areas. So
Yeah. So with that being said, guys, let's finally tackle this big elephant in the room, which is online, because we've talked about connectivity and online
Before we go
issues.
there, I want to talk about one other possible concern that I have with the game.
Okay.
Previous versions has had all the seasonal content already on disc or already on cart. That doesn't sound like that's what's going on here.
And I was going to cover that during this online part, but that's a good segue into that. So, conspicuous by its absence in this direct was particularly talk of a few things that the community has been concerned about, as backs of game packaging has been shown and all kinds of other things, namely, what can I do with my save data? What role does the cloud have in this, which we had already been told this game would not use the save data cloud, just like Splatoon or Pokemon. But also, as Jesse mentioned, the seasonal events in the game were referred to as downloadable updates that would trigger during the year. And then looming out there somewhere is the way back when Reggie Fils-Aimé talked about Animal Crossing when it came out, finally when it finally arrived, was going to integrate with Pocket Camp and all kinds of things like that. So, Jesse, let's tackle your issue here first. So in the past Animal Crossing games, we have had seasonal events where different characters would come and visit the town. You would have Jingle at Christmas. You would have like a turkey that showed up at Thanksgiving. You would have all kinds of different ones that would come out at different seasons, right? All of those figures, these familiar figures now, were shown, as it mentioned, free online updates or free updates that would be supporting this game. Sounded a lot like downloads to me.
Right. So
Yep.
my initial concern is, families that may not have internet wouldn't be able to do the updates, so they may miss out on the seasonal content, in real time. A longer term concern is if they're actually if the events are actually patched out of the game when they end, then that has to be patched in for the next year. So that back and forth will have to continue as long as there is maintenance on the game, or if they still stay in the game, but just shut off by date, then once you have the updates, then you'll have them, and they can use them year over year, which is fine too. But say 20 years from now, some servers I'm sure are past dead. People will dust off their Switches and cart and want to launch it and try to live the nostalgia, because that happens somehow with Nintendo's hardware. They won't be able to patch the game at all. They were not going to have access to them no matter what they do.
Yeah, it's interesting. Some people are speculating it has a lot to do with exactly what you just said about, um, these updates being timed, and maybe even I saw somebody suggest that maybe the Christmas event one year is not going to be the same Christmas event the next year.
That's possible.
Yeah, very
due
possible.
to due to it being a download, and to try to keep it fresh. But we all know that there's an end date. There's a shelf life for these online services a lot of times in these games, and then you're missing. I wouldn't say necessarily a vital part, but an important part of those games when you've built something up like that, like Animal Crossing has.
It's at least something that it will bring you back into the game, knowing something special is going on. If you say stop playing for 2 months and say, "Oh, it's December 15th. Let's log in and see what's going on now."
Right. Yeah. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe instead of it being just a benign little event that happens during the game, where you get a notification of it on your like little letterboard or whatever on your island or in your town. In the past, maybe it's a big event and we can promote this, and it's going to do all kinds of other things. It's not just going to bring Jack to town. It's going to bring all kinds of other stuff, because I noticed that they were also very much emphasizing the difference between night and day on the island. And I know that that's going to just be a normal feature for the game, but it sounded like they're paying attention a lot more to differences between time and seasons in this game.
Yeah, I
And
noticed
so
that too.
it could be very much that there is something having to do with those events that is way more than just, oh, I came to town to give you a present.
Yeah,
That was
that's
one of the cool things that I thought, was that you could switch the seasons depending on which hemisphere you were in. I don't think they've ever done that before.
No, I think that's new.
Though
So,
that's definitely new.
it doesn't affect us. It doesn't affect most of the world. But the people, say in Brazil, they'll actually have winter when it's winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
was
pretty
thinking
cool.
something similar to like what you were saying. Whenever they were saying that this is going to be an update now and not on the cart, my first thought is it probably needs to be meatier, right? If you're going to remove it off of the actual card itself that you're putting in the game, I think it needs to be bigger than what it's been in the past to kind of justify it in a way, right? If you're gambling about losing this feature in the future, right, when servers and things like that are down, I think the seasonal events need to be kind of big, and changing it up to kind of make it
Yeah.
worth like, hey, I'm pulling my system out, I'm doing an update. If it's just like you said, kind of like a little notification and one person shows up, I don't know if that's enough. I think it needs to be a bigger deal.
Yeah, I've used this example before, but Dragon Quest IX had a lot of interaction with online servers to have like a daily shop with extra items that you wouldn't normally get, in normal gameplay, or have access to extra grottos for extra end game content. That just game doesn't exist natively anymore, because those servers have been shut down, and there is a community keeping that stuff alive through other means, like you have to manually change the DNS on your DS to access it. Some potentially shady things or risky things with your network, but if it works, it works. But so we may have to go there with this game 15, 20 years from now.
Well, speaking of risky and shady things, let's talk about this save data
Tim
thing
has a hand
here.
up?
Hold on. I know you
Oh,
want to get to
sorry.
the save data part.
Didn't see
Yeah,
you there,
trying
Tim.
I didn't want to interrupt Jesse's thought there, but I wanted to, and Benji, you might appreciate this because I'm kind of speculating on numbers here.
Ooh, okay.
But I don't have numbers in front of me. I wish my uncle, that works at Nintendo would share that with me. But I wonder now that we share a lot of information on usage with a Switch, if Nintendo's decisions on what they decide to do with these games, like presenting a lot of this game content more so from online than on the cart, is coming from knowing the usage of the majority of their customers, if you will. So if they see a lot of people are online most of the time, or a majority of them, then yeah, let's sell a game that is going to get online more often.
Definitely. I definitely think that's part of it. I think that Nintendo is definitely trying to slowly, push their base more and more towards online. I don't think Nintendo is ever going to be the kind of company that, straight up, abandons offline play or anything like that. I think
Like
Nintendo
Microsoft
is
tried to do in 2012.
Yeah, I think Nintendo is still very, appreciative and focused on their core fan base that they've had, for decades. But as the industry does slowly start to shift, more and more towards online, I do think you're going to see their games incorporating more online elements. I don't think it's one of these things that people should panic over yet, that like, oh man, Nintendo's just going to start, going fully down this road. I don't think that, but I do think part of the thought process with like these updates and things like that is they really want to get people into that online ecosystem as much as they can, because another way to look at it is eventually maybe those people don't pay for Switch Online right now, right? And you probably, you're not going to need the online paid membership to do the update, but maybe if they get you interacting with that online space, they can eventually turn you into a subscriber. And we've seen with things like, Xbox Live and PlayStation Network, where they've just become real juggernauts, for their revenue and for their profit. So I definitely think Nintendo's trying to slowly, get more people involved in that ecosystem.
And
I think this is definitely like, I'm sorry, Jesse, go ahead.
This isn't necessarily anything new. Nintendo's been trying this for a while. Remember Miiverse was a thing. Many games, a surprisingly number of games, tapped into it and did various things with it.
Well, and if you remember back, as you were talking about the online and converting subscribers and all that, like I remember the quote was, we want to add value to the Nintendo Switch Online service, right?
Yep.
So what if this is, hey, Animal Crossing's great, right? But if you had Nintendo Switch Online, you could get all of these cool seasonal events that you're not getting without online. I don't know.
Makes sense.
I know it says free updates, but I mean, is that free updates with Nintendo Switch Online, or is it free updates with nothing? Because I don't think it's free updates with nothing.
I would think the game updates are just updates, available to anybody, because that's just a game patch. Going to someone else's island will require NSO.
Yeah, exactly.
But just downloading the Thanksgiving Halloween event won't.
Yeah, and I think it's more of just like trying to get that interaction going. You know what I mean? Maybe you're not a subscriber right off the bat, but just getting you familiar with logging in, doing updates. Because for a lot of us, like, adults and stuff, we're super familiar with it. But with kids and things like that, getting them, just more and more used to engaging with the online service, maybe eventually, you turn that into a subscription. I think that's part of the thought process. But I also think I'm guessing that these seasonal events are probably, like we talked about earlier, I'm guessing or hoping they're going to be bigger.
Yeah. Well, I did notice that it seemed like when they showed off the seasons, right, that they showed your character shaking a tree and a Christmas light or a Christmas ornament falling out of it. And that has been something that we haven't seen before. So it could have something to do with that, or it could just have something to do with the season. We'll have to wait until December, January to find out. So I don't know.
Drumsticks going to fall out during Thanksgiving?
That would be great.
Pumpkin
just
pies.
Turkeys, just giant turkeys. Yeah, let's talk about the save data thing, because this is it's just really it's on my nerves. I'm just going to be honest. That's why I've been wanting to get to this. So not announced during the Direct, but later dug up on the Animal Crossing site from Nintendo UK was this image, and I'm going to read the text of this image, and I just want us to kind of discuss this. And it said this: important notes regarding save data. Number one, this game does not support the save data cloud functionality of Nintendo Switch Online.
Yikes.
However, the ability to recover Animal Crossing New Horizons save data from the server in the event of console failure, loss, or theft will be available to Nintendo Switch Online members later this year. Double yikes.
Yeah.
Here's the second
The fact
part.
that it's not at launch is.
Yeah,
yikes.
this is the other part this is where it really gets stuck in my craw. This game does not currently support the ability to transfer your save file from one Nintendo Switch console to another. However, a function specific to Animal Crossing New Horizons to move users and save data to another console is planned for later this year. So basically what this image says, without saying it directly, is Animal Crossing New Horizons lacks basic functionality that is now native to almost every other game on Nintendo Switch. Guys, I'm going to be honest with you here. This is why people think Nintendo is incompetent.
Well, and
I'm
we've
just gonna be
talked about
honest.
this before, and I given my explanation of logic of why, in my brain, that kind of makes sense of why it doesn't work. But again, the problem is Nintendo has trained us to expect one thing because every other game works this way, and the fact that this works different is why people are having a problem with it. But so now I'm going to throw in my opinion there, and again, Marty, you're not going to like what I'm going to have to say. But when they get to the point when they can transfer data from one system to another, it's going to be a move, not a copy. So your kid can't play the same island as you on a different Switch while you're out of town.
I'm fine with that, and I'm fine with that. But I want to be clear about where my problem is here. And I talked to some folks on our Discord earlier and was talking about this. Here is the whole part of it that is really grinding my gears. Is I envisioned buying this game to play with my family, right? So the idea is that since you can call people, as was described in this direct, and invite them to your island, and you can all play together, and one person's the leader, and only they get the tools, so you can't rampage around cutting down trees and digging up fossils and all that stuff. It's great. It's great for parents who have kids who want to play. That's what I envisioned. I envisioned playing that with my kids. I envisioned playing it with my wife after the kids went to bed.
I'm seeing that as two different functions, though. The thing where certain tools are disabled, that's for online functionality. If you go to Tim's Island, you can't chop down trees unless you're flagged as best friends.
So
if you are playing,
not just for local play?
No, that's for remote play. Local play is you have a house, your kid has a house, your wife has a house. You can all grab a Joy-Con and all hop in. That's where the follower and the leader probably takes both. But
Yeah.
in that
That's
situation,
what I'm saying. Like, I'm fine with them having a house on my island. Like, I'm fine with them being on the island. But my point is this: is like I want to play that at home on the TV, and then the next morning, if I'm going somewhere, I want to be able to download my island and move that save data like I did with Pokemon. I physically did the manual save data transfer almost 3-4 times a week when I was finishing Pokemon Shield, from my Switch to my Switch Lite, and from my Switch Lite back to my Switch. Why can I not do that?
well,
That makes absolutely zero sense. And I promise you, Jesse, there is nothing that you can say to me on this show that's going to make me.
I've
believe
explained this
anything
multiple
else.
times in the past 2 or 3 weeks why that the system level function doesn't work, which is why it needs a game level function to do it.
But it should. If it needs that, then it should have been ready at launch.
I don't disagree with you.
I still don't think it should have to take a game level thing. I think they should just build it in a way that works like Sony and Microsoft do. Oops, I'm a Nintendo dad and I said it.
I don't think they have any
Just
games that do this. I think this is
Sony and
they're
Microsoft
literally
don't
doing
have a game like this.
Yeah, they're literally doing something that no one else does, which is why it's different.
And what is the whole thing that they're keeping us from? Like, why are they doing this?
They're,
Like I don't.
they're throwing it back to how you played the game on the GameCube. The system had one island, or at least the memory card had one island, that multiple people logged into and shared the community. So in the Switch version, it's one island and multiple users share the community.
I know you've said that before, but here's the thing: I don't want to play GameCube Animal Crossing on the Switch. I want to play Switch Animal Crossing on the Switch. I want it to be new, and I think the majority of people want it to be new, and I think that possibly the reason that they've delayed info for so long is because of this. Because this sucks.
Right.
Let's
And
just
again,
call it what it is.
Which goes back to my prediction that I said last month, where I think they will have a patch that will let each profile have its own island, doing what you want it to do. But
Possibly.
That's not how they're doing it at launch.
And somebody else, I think it was Nick or Cat Janitor in the Dad Crossing chat. They made this suggestion: just buy 2 copies and have a family island and a dad island. I want to do that.
But it's not 2 copies of the cart because the save data is on the system. You'd have to have 2 different Switches to do that.
Yeah.
It was definitely the one big miss for sure. I agree with you on that. It was the one big miss, and especially not being able to like move your save to another console, like not even just the cloud stuff, but the being able to like manually move it over to a light. I do think that's kind of crazy. They don't have that feature ready, at launch. They're saying it's coming, but that was the one shocker to me, especially as like light is a thing on the market now. We have the regular Switch and we have the light. You would think they want these two to work in tandem, like, as best as possible.
Yeah, it kills me when they just announced, like last week, I think it was, or whenever the earnings call was, that 30% of Nintendo Switch Lite owners are Nintendo Switch owners. Mm-hmm. And it feels like a really big glaring whiff, like strike out, like the game is over. And I know it's not, like, I know that like it's people, I'm still going to buy it, but that's why I said earlier that this is a game that should be a 10 for me and it's a 7 or 8, because now I'm going to have to make the decision, which Switch do I lock this game to? And that is, no other game does that. Like, I get that it's for manipulation or whatever, but come on. This should have been, honestly, something that was figured out beforehand. And this is not going to be popular when I say this, but I'm going to say it: delay the game until it's figured out.
Yeah, I think this is something that they should have probably market tested, and they didn't. And going back to the GameCube model of play, and without polling people, is this what you want? Yes or no. It may be most people want this, and we're just we as in you guys, because again I'm not playing it, are the minority. I don't know, but again, as we said last week, the minority is often the most vocal.
Very true.
Right.
That was the title of last week's episode.
As a guess, oh sorry, you can go first.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I think 3 of us were talking at once. I'll let you go.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. You go ahead.
The one thing I was going to say is, as a guess, I don't think it's going to hurt sales really too much. I just don't think it's really going to hurt sales, but it's definitely bad PR. It's definitely gotten bad PR online. There's definitely been some blowback on it. But I don't think it'll hurt sales. I don't think it'll go that far. But it's definitely, been a bit of bad PR for them for sure.
I know. I didn't get a chance to see Josh's video. He talked about the Direct. I'm expecting he's all hyped for it, but I wanted to watch his video before we recorded, and I didn't get a chance to. So people are still out there, are excited for the game. Probably, despite of these potential networking and save state issues, which is
Marty, I got a question for you.
Okay, go ahead.
My question for you is: I know you didn't want to buy the game twice, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you, not just you, Marty, but everybody here. Could you I'm not clear, but can't you just buy the game physically and be able to use it on your home console and your light?
It'd be two separate
but
islands.
That's
Well,
that's
yeah,
my
I
whole
know,
point.
it's-
I don't want
I
it
know
to
that.
be two separate islands.
Yeah, because the issue is it
I
saves it
understand
to
that.
the console, right? Yeah, you can't take
In a
the
game
save
like
data to the
this,
cartridge.
in a game like this, where you work so hard on something, when you work so hard on crafting your own vision for what things are, it's a real kick between the legs to say, oh, you can just do two islands. You can just it won't be a big deal. Because I mean, you're crafting items, you're doing stuff, guys. Think about this. Imagine if Minecraft said, "Hey, you know, we're gonna put out this game. It's called Minecraft. You can build something on, this is way back when they did it, right? Like way back when. If you build it on your PC, it won't be on your Switch, or it won't be. But then now all that's unified. They figured it out. I just don't like. Maybe I just sound like I'm whining about it or whatever. But like you sell a console and you have the ability to move stuff back and forth between other consoles, and all of a sudden you're like, but not for that game.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Right.
I think the experience, though, is what the Nintendo has been trying to say, and a lot of people have been trying to say, is that the experience is behind the one island. Even though obviously we don't like the aspect of being able to move it from one Switch to the other, so that you can play on the go. But as Jesse alluded to, if you are playing the game on the go, how are your kids going to play it? Because that's going to screw up the communication between the two.
But that
Come back.
right. But that's not how we use it. The whole point is that I'm transferring it to my Switch Lite so that I can play it on the go, and that we would
Yeah.
only play it together. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, we're not.
And you have to
My-
have two
my
copies if
wife-
you're
my
playing
wife
one
is
over
not
here,
gonna be-
one over here.
My wife's not going to be at home like during the day and going, oh, I think I'm going to pop into the Animal Crossing island. No, she's really only going to do that because I ask her to, because like we enjoy doing that together. So she would not do that. So it wouldn't be a big issue. It would be like, oh, well, if we're going to play together, let me get my Switch Lite and move it back to the other Switch. Right? So there wouldn't be a time where it was going to be like that, where like my kids were going to be playing it when I was trying to play it. Does that make sense?
No, it does not to me. I'm sorry, I'm lost. Because I'm trying to tell you, I understand you're going to play at home together, but when you want to go on the go and play, and maybe your kids do want to play on the home console version, you can't do that with one copy.
Right, I got that, and
So, but then
to
you're
that
saying-
end, my son is buying his own copy of Animal Crossing for his own Switch.
Okay.
But my point is that I would just like the whole gripe is I want to be able to move it back and forth between which Switch I want it on,
Yes.
which I can do with 329 or 2,999 of the 3,000 game Switch library I can do it with, except this
But none
one
of those
game.
games are like Animal Crossing, so that's what I'm trying to. I think that's what they're trying to. Yes, they need to figure it out. I don't disagree with that.
So what?
They
so
should
what
have had this figured out by this time,
Yeah,
but they don't.
yeah.
So what they're doing is getting the game out so you can start playing it and then start figuring it out. We totally disagree with that. I understand, and I don't like it either. I don't like
and
being able
here's
to
the
back
thing.
it up. But what
Let's
I'm trying
not.
to look at,
Let's not even get
I'm
into
trying
that
to
whole
look
thing
at-
about.
what I'm trying to look at is the other aspects of it too. What we have now is what we got. We're getting it March 20th without the save. So what can we do in the meantime? If there's enough people that get
Nothing.
screwed, there may be a lawsuit at hand. I don't know, but that's the thing, is it's frustrating, because
It
believe
is
me,
frustrating
I
because
can see you're just as frustrated as I am was with EA and Nintendo, right? So
it's moving. It's for this one game. It is rewinding the clock back to before Nintendo Switch Online, basically.
To GameCube.
It's if your
is
Switch
what I was saying.
breaks, if your Switch breaks, too bad.
And that we talked about that too. It's like going back to the Breath of Wild days when you've got all those
Yeah.
hours in
Yep.
and then you lose
Yeah.
your game, then you're screwed. You got
What I wonder is that for people who are super serious about this game, and I'm even though I don't like this, I wouldn't call myself super serious about Animal Crossing, but I wonder if that coupled with the save transfer thing, if the worry of losing all those hours is going to make super serious Animal Crossing fan boys and girls delay purchase of this game.
Well, we know one person that's a super serious Animal Crossing player, and we have our own community who are super serious too. They certainly do have their, they're having second thoughts about it, right? But then the
Yeah.
other person we know who has 4 Switch lights
Yeah.
which is, the Nintendo guru. He didn't seem to be bothered by it, at least as far as
No, in fact,
Well,
when I said something about
doesn't
this,
mean he
just said,
plays
I just
all
want to
of
play
them.
the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, and all of this, and I said this in both places I complained about it today, I totally get this is quote unquote hashtag first world problems, right? I get it. Because I literally have a console that goes at home and on the go in my original Switch. But I just travel with my light more. So I guess the compromise I'm making right now is that it's going on the home Switch so I can play it on the TV with my wife. And when I travel, I just won't take it with me. Sucks to suck.
one of the things I try to look at is the light at the end of the tunnel, so that I don't get as pissed off as you do. And that is, I'm trying to see if this issue, and I mentioned it in the pre-show, was if this thing that they're doing has anything to do with Doug Bowser alluded to last year about a new way to back up your save data or transfer it between two systems. Because he alluded to that last E3, I believe it was, that there was a new way they were working on. It was coming. And I wonder
put
if
it on the micro SD card.
and put it in the computer, right? Yes.
And just put it on.
Don't put that in.
Just put it in the next system. It's
Yeah.
not hard.
It
It's not-
almost
listen,
works that way for
here's the thing,
3DS.
Like, I love.
It took him a while for
this
that
is,
too,
this
didn't
is
it?
who I am with this. Okay, like this is how I feel about this issue, and maybe this is the parenting part of this episode. Is like I feel about this like I do when I look at my kids, and I'm like, y'all, the answer or the thing that you need is right in front of you. Like my daughter on the daily has a meltdown about, I can't find my glasses, I can't find my shoes, I can't find. It's right there. It's right in front of you. Just look. That's how I feel. That's how I'm relating to Nintendo. I love you.
Totally frustrating. Yes.
But
Totally
gosh,
frustrating.
this is right
I'm
my
with
blood
you. It is, but I try not to think about it because otherwise I'll get at your level.
At least we have each other to commiserate about
Yes.
it with, right? So, look, let's get off of Animal Crossing. I'm sure people are tired of us talking about this. Let's talk about some sales numbers.
Or
Benji,
extremely
this is right up
entertained.
your-
One of the two.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this week, the January 2020 MPD sales numbers released, and once again, Nintendo Switch is the best-selling console for the month, not just in units sold, but also in dollar sales as well. And this just is continuing. And here's the crazy thing about this is that we're not riding the Smash Brothers wave in January 2020.
Great point.
But Benji, let's break this down and talk about this here for a minute, especially on the system level. Is there any wave we are riding? I've also noticed that Bloomberg reported this week that in April we could see global Nintendo Switch shortages. I'm guessing that's due to production issues with the coronavirus and things over in China. Talk to us a little bit about what you're hearing and what do you think this trend's going to continue for Switch in the first quarter of the year?
Yeah, absolutely. So Switch just in terms of hardware sales continues to just completely dominate the market. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. It's completely dominating the market right now. has been really all of 2019, and now we're kicking off 2020, and it's looking the same way. I don't anticipate that slowing down anytime soon. In fact, honestly, the only month I could see Switch potentially not being the best-selling console for the month is potentially when The Last of Us Part 2 drops. If Sony has like a big price promotion, around the PS4 during that time. But honestly, other than that, until the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X come out, I'm just going to anticipate Switch is the best-selling console every single month up until they launch, by a big margin. So Switch is just dominating the market. One thing I noticed in January is that in Japan, Switch was way up in January over the previous year. The US wasn't quite the same. It was actually down from the previous January, but only slightly. And like you said, last year we had the Smash bump. We were riding that huge Smash wave. And yes, there is a Pokemon wave going on right now, but Pokemon was back, towards the end of November. So overall, super, super, super impressed with the Switch. January was another great month for it. And yeah, I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. The one thing that's a little troubling is, like you said, the coronavirus, right? That is a potential major issue. It's not right now in the US. So right now, stock is completely fine. Stock's completely good. Nothing to worry about there. Japan's a different story. So Japan already has shortages. But in the West, not just in the US, but Europe, they're saying late March into April, you could start to see, the shortages pop up because, it's delaying, manufacturing over there. So that could be an issue. And it comes, the timeline's a little worrying because that lines right up with Animal Crossing's release, right? And I think we're all expecting Animal Crossing to sell a lot of consoles. So that will be one thing to watch. That could potentially be a very big deal.
Yeah, and I think this is one thing to note here is this is not just affecting Nintendo. It's affecting tech companies across the board. I know this week that Apple is already predicting a shortfall in its sales figures due to the coronavirus. Of course, with Foxconn being huge in China, that's and factories. What you have to understand is, if you're not familiar with this, is that not only are factories shut down for the virus, factories have been shut down for Chinese New Year. So which is about 2 weeks. Am I right? It's like a 2 week period that everybody is gone. Like China shuts down. Being into board games, I hear about this a lot, especially around backing games on Kickstarter. That it's like, hey, we were going to get it out, but then we ran into Chinese New Year, and now the factories are shut down for 2 weeks, and shipping shut down, and all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, do we expect that if all goes well, that this Animal Crossing Switch is probably going to bump them quite a few units?
Yeah, it'd be huge. Yep. I'm expecting Animal Crossing in general to have a huge effect. So Animal Crossing New Leaf, on the 3DS sold over 12 million units. Very, very big game. And New Horizons is tracking even bigger as of right now. So, I mean, as long as the inventory's there, I think Animal Crossing could have a monstrous effect. But that coronavirus, that's worrying. And like you said, it's affecting all of tech. It's not just Nintendo. And if this continues long term, I know this is a Nintendo podcast, but it could even affect PlayStation and Xbox. Like that's how big the coronavirus is becoming in terms of like harming manufacturing. It'll be interesting to see if this has any effect on what happens to Xbox and PlayStation too.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It wouldn't surprise me if there are like Wii level types of shortages for the first 6 months post launch.
That was rough.
Very possible. Very possible. It's too early to know. It's too early to know yet. Maybe we get lucky and this thing slows down, in the next month or two. But if we're unlucky and it keeps going all the way into the summer, yeah, it could have some major ramifications for the whole video game industry.
I mean, and by major ramifications, like I'm guessing you're thinking like, here's two companies, Sony and Microsoft, who've said holiday 2020 for their new console, and either they're hard or near impossible to get, or the release window has to slip
Yeah, it's
due to that.
it's hard to tell exactly which way it could go, but
Sure.
I would not be shocked if, if this continues, where we're all, hoping that it stops soon, not just for video games, but for the health of everyone. But it's one of those things that it's a very volatile situation, and it's already impacting the industry right now. Like for Switch, shortages in Japan are happening right now. That's one thing I tweeted out recently. It's interesting is that last week Lite became 80% of Switch sales in Japan. And the reason for that is because, they had Lite still on the shelves, like they had a good stock of it, but the regular Switch, because of those shortages, is rapidly running out. So normally, like you said, it's closer to that like 30%, and now all of a sudden you're seeing Lite just shoot up to like 80%. So, it could be crazy if this actually hits the West, and in April we're seeing shortages like that. It could be a big deal.
Yeah, and I mean, in the midst of that, Nintendo announced this week a new edition of the Nintendo Switch Lite, in Coral. And it's going to release ahead of, or actually it releases after Animal Crossing. Am I right about that? I think it's first part of April.
Ooh, I don't remember the date.
I'm verifying it. I had a link to the Amazon page. April 3rd.
I thought it was in March.
April 3rd. Yeah, so 2 weeks, basically 2 weeks after Animal Crossing, the new Switch Lite is out as well. Let me ask you this, Benji. You mentioned The Last of Us Part 2 being a drive for sales for Sony. Do you think that we'll see something similar in April when Final Fantasy VII Remake comes out?
I think it could help, but I don't think it'll have the same kind of impact as The Last of Us. PlayStation's kind of in the same situation that Xbox is in to a degree right now, in that so many people already have them because they've been out for so long. Like, I can't go into details because it's all, NDA data, but let's just say that January, for example, for PlayStation and Xbox was really bad. It was really, really bad in unit sales, like bad. So if that continues, we're just so late in the cycle for them, and their next platforms are already announced. So I wouldn't be shocked if you see a bit of a bump from Final Fantasy, but I think really the last one in the tank that could really move units for PlayStation, Nintendo's still got a bunch, because Switch is only in its third year, so they still have a lot of room to grow. But for PlayStation, The Last of Us, I think, is really the last hurrah. The last chance of it, taking number one for the month. I don't see it any other month it could happen.
Gotcha. Let's talk about a little bit of these game sales. This is physical sales only. Digital sales are not included for some of these, the ones that have an asterisk by them, and I'll kind of make a note of that as we go down through here. The number one selling Nintendo Switch game for January was Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which is not surprising, but at the same time is a little surprising.
Yeah, it's like a year-old game beating out Pokemon.
A year-old game up against Pokemon. Yep. Number two, also, to me, at this point, this is not a shocker. Mario
Kart 8. See, I'm not even looking at the list. I have not seen this list, and I knew what you were going to say.
Number two selling game. But I will tell you where I am pleasantly surprised, and that is in number 3, Ring Fit Adventure was the number 3 selling Nintendo Switch game in January 2020.
I heard that's getting scalped in pretty heavily, which is...
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, so that is definitely, I agree. That was the biggest impressive performance to me. We already kind of got a hint it was doing pretty well, because in December, this might sound low, but in December it was the 20th best-selling game of the month in the US, which I know sounds low, but December is like a huge month. Like, things are just selling like crazy. So to make the top 20 at all, you're selling a good amount of units. So we already had an indication like, ooh, Ring Fit's doing pretty good. And then all of a sudden to see it like shoot up the charts, in January, it's like, wow, that was the one that really impressed me. out of the Nintendo
Or you're
software.
you're boosted by the resolution crowd.
Yeah,
Right?
I think that
It's
is a
like, I'm
part.
gonna.
I really
I mean,
do.
I kind of bought it as as a part of my New Year's resolution as well. But like I think this is like if you're Nintendo and you're looking at Ring Fit Adventure, you've got to be happy with how this is performing right now. Not
Absolutely.
just in America, but worldwide. I mean, people in Japan standing in line when stores open to get Ring Fit Adventure. This is decidedly a much different experiment than Labo.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the one that going into it, I saw a lot of comparisons. A lot of people, when we didn't know how it was going to perform, people were like, is this the next Labo? Because, Labo, as unique as it was in terms of sales, was a bit of a miss. But no, yeah, we can safely say Ring Fit is not a Labo. Not at all.
I heard people in Discord, I think it was last week, talking about that they wanted to start seeing other games use the Ring-Con and in different ways and see what other companies can do with it.
Definitely.
I think that would be great. There's a lot of potential there for that.
Yeah.
Would limit the audience to only those who owns the hardware, because I don't think you can buy
Right.
a Ring-Con separately like you used to be able to buy the balance board separately. Back in
I
the
think
Wii Fit
actually,
days.
I think that you can. I think it's on like the store.nintendo.com. I think you can go in there.
Well,
But you do it that way, but it's
you just can't go to Walmart and pick it up, is what I mean.
right.
Yeah.
They would. I mean, they would have to make it available that
Mhm.
way. And knowing Nintendo, they'd make 5 of them. But another. Let's run down the rest of this list.
That's the Ring Fit amiibo they're making 5 of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still looking for Simon. I can't find him. Pokemon Sword coming in at number 4, which isn't much of a surprise. Number 5, Luigi's Mansion 3, which is awesome. Again, we talked about a few weeks ago that had sold right around north of 5 million copies. So Luigi's Mansion doing really good. Breath of the Wild hanging on at number 6. Pokemon Shield at number 7. New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe at number 8.
Wow.
Followed by Mario Party at number 9. And then the only non-Nintendo published game on the list, Just Dance 2020. Or as it's listed right now on Amazon, Dummy Parent 1. Seriously, the listing for Just Dance on Amazon a few days ago, it was called Dummy Parent 1.
Was it really? That is hilarious.
I don't know that it's still there. It was.
I didn't know
saw
that,
it
actually. That's hilarious.
in the flesh for myself. If you had to guess, Benji, what, like, by the time Nintendo releases its next financials report, let's just say the next quarter earnings or whatever, which games do you think are going to be there in the top 5?
Ooh, like for the quarter, so definitely Pokemon's going to be right there near the top in terms of like combined shipments, because Nintendo will combine their shipments, whereas NPD will track them separately. Like how you said, Sword was in one spot and Shield in another. Nintendo, they just put it all together whenever they give that number. So definitely you're going to see Pokemon way up there. Definitely, it's hilarious, but Mario Kart, it's at 22 million sold and it just doesn't stop, which is crazy. Whenever you think that the Switch is at 52 million, that means almost half of every single Switch sold has Mario Kart. It's a crazy attach rate.
And continues to have that attach rate. So for every 2 Switches sold to someone new, one person's buying a cart.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. So definitely you'll see Mario Kart in there. I suspect you'll see Luigi. Luigi seems to be having good legs. It came out, whenever you think about it, back at the end of October, and it's still charting in January. So that's a very good performance. And then, of course, Animal Crossing will be out right at the end, because their quarter will end in March. So you'll definitely see Animal Crossing in there really high up in terms of their shipment numbers.
It'll be interesting to see what the fiscal numbers look like after it's only been on the market for 11 days.
Yeah, that'll be exciting.
Yeah.
Look at Pokemon doing 16 million in its first quarter. That was mind-blowing.
In 6 weeks.
And do you think that Pokemon is let me ask this. Pokemon Sword and Shield, is it the only game on the Switch right now that can catch Mario Kart
Ooh, yeah, probably. It's the only one right now with any chance. Nothing else is. I mean, there's other games selling amazing. Like you said, Breath of the Wild's still doing fantastic. Smash, maybe. Smash has a bit of a shot. It could. Because it's surprising that it's number one. Like you said, that's pretty surprising in January that it's still the number one game. So Smash maybe, but I would say of the two, Pokemon combined, Sword and Shield combined, has the best shot at catching Mario Kart. For sure.
It was we can just chalk it all up to Byleth being revealed as the 5th DLC character.
Yeah.
Right. That's what drove it in. Well, man, thanks for chatting those. I wish Justin was here to put on his business hat with you and talk with a little bit of those.
Yeah.
But let's discuss another topic here that has come into us this week, shall we? All right, so a few of us here around the Nintendo Dads HQ have gone rogue and played Jedi Fallen Order on a non-Nintendo system. I'm looking at me, Tim. I'm looking at you. Benji, have you played Jedi Fallen Order?
Yep, played it and beat it.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
I agree.
Jesse, did you play it at all?
No.
Okay.
The last Star Wars game I tried playing was one on the Wii, Force Unleashed, I think, and didn't get far.
Well, this is kind of like Dark Souls and Star Wars, so
which not appetizing to me. That doesn't tell.
that's kind of why I said that. So, kind of boldened by the success of Jedi Fallen Order, and also Tim mentioned earlier Spider-Man for the PlayStation. And Kingdom Hearts, I would say, Disney has made a statement this week that they want game developers to reimagine their franchises. And this got our wheels turning as we talked about it a little bit before the show. And my wheels have been turning on it this week as I've thought about it, about what would it be like, or what would you love to see this look like? Like, which game developer would you love to take on a Disney franchise and just go wild with it for a game? And so we've been thinking about this.
I have an
on
example of something that was previously tried and didn't work very well.
Okay.
Epic Mickey.
Ooh.
Yeah. A lot of promise there, but the game sucked.
Yeah. That was a game I bought. I enjoyed it. I never finished it. It definitely had problems. But
saying that game had problems is an understatement.
I love the lore behind it. The lore behind
the lore,
it was fantastic.
That's what kept me in as long as it did.
Yeah, like I remember seeing the initial planning, of that game, and like the development of that game, and all the artwork coming out about it, and the story, and I was just like, this is awesome. And then I played it, I was like, this is not awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it would be a good example of a developer reimagining a Disney franchise. So I want to know what you guys have got. I want to hear your ideas. What Disney franchise would you love to see reimagined as a game, and what type of game, and who's doing it?
I would love to see it's a Disney owned property. It's not one of Disney themselves, it's not like the cartoons that many of us grew up with, but I would love to see. I'm a comic book nerd. I'm a superhero guy. I would love to see a Doctor Strange game. I just think his powers would translate so cool. I think there's so much you could do there with Doctor Strange. So many cool enemies and places you could go. That would be one of my dream games. I just think he would work so good in a video game setting. I think it would translate really, really well.
In VR?
I don't know if you have anybody in mind to develop that, but I think Sucker Punch would do a really good job with Doctor Strange.
Yeah, that would be sweet. That would
See,
be
what I was
sweet.
thinking as you were talking about that is, and Sucker Punch would like you saying that, like, God, that would be awesome. You know what else would be really good? It's because Doctor Strange deals with a different aspect of the Marvel universe. You
Hmm.
said it, like all the villains and the dimensions and Dormammu and all this stuff. What an awesome survival horror game that would be
Oh yeah,
with
you're
Doctor
speaking to me. I
Strange.
love survival horror, so
Oh my
that would be
gosh,
perfect. That would be amazing.
I'd be all in.
Yeah, there's just so much you
Sounds
could do
cool.
there. Like you said, you could make it kind of spooky, you could make it kind of scary. His powers are different than like a normal superhero. You know what I mean? A lot of normal superheroes, you're, in an Iron Man suit or something like that. But he's got like these magic powers, so it makes him really unique. And yeah, there's just so much you could do there.
Love it. That man, that sounds like God. Now I want this game. Now I want this game. Anybody else?
Well, I don't have any of my own ideas, but I'm liking some of the ideas in the chat. So if
Yeah,
Tim's
let's
still
hear them.
if Tim's still thinking,
I have one.
all right, let's do Tim. Have Tim go
I have a
first.
couple of them, but one of them, when we were talking earlier, Marty, you and I were talking about a game we liked that Disney did, but never did again, which was Split Second, which was a racing game that you would race through environments that was getting destroyed or blown up or crumbling around you. And as you guys were talking, I just realized one developer I think that would be really good at redeveloping a sequel to that would be the game developer behind Asphalt. Because I've been a really big fan of Asphalt, and that's Gameloft. Now, even though they've done mobile games, I think they did a really good job on the port to Switch. And I've been really loving it. I like racing games, and I think how they represent that game, Asphalt, on the Switch or even mobile for that matter. And they've done games for 3DS. In fact, they've done Asphalt games for that. I think they would be really good at doing a split-second game.
Yes.
Yeah, very
Yes.
cool.
And I'd love to see that franchise come back because it was a cool concept of like world, or do you call it world destruction? Map destruction and racing at the same time. Like you could trigger events to happen based on how well you did. That was really cool. What about your second idea?
Second out of three, I guess. The second one is and this is probably a lofty dream, but
A game
this
lofty
would not
dream?
only this would not only include Disney but other properties as well, and that would be doing something like oh crap, I'm losing it. Starting with the Disney toy box thing.
Infinity?
What was that called? The Infinity. Thanks. Doing
Oh
that.
yeah.
Taking amiibos and taking Skylanders and doing a game that would bring those all together. They probably couldn't do the toys again, but bring all those together, mash it all up into
Animal Crossing
kind of like,
Festival.
yes, you got it, the newest one. No, I was
With
Animal Crossing
Elsa
was my third
and
idea, but this idea was to do kind of like, how we got Mario and Sonic at the Olympics, would do something like I guess mini games, I guess, using all the different types of toys to life type things that they used to do.
Yeah, I know Infinity had like some really big fans. I never played Infinity, but there was some people that really loved that game.
To me, there wasn't like a really groundbreaking game there, but the design of the characters, like just the aesthetic of the figures and just the actual toys themselves, not in game and out of game, was spectacular. Just awesome.
Then the third thing
It
was
got a little
Animal
too
Crossing.
ambitious.
The third thing was Animal Crossing, that since we're going to be connected online, that we do kind of like the Fortnite thing, I guess, if you will, where you can download patterns or whatever that would be Disney designs, any of their properties, so that you can have a shirt with, Captain Marvel, on it, or Captain
QR
America.
just through the QR
Shield.
codes.
Yes. So, or even bring it, or even some characters from Disney itself that would come visit your island. I think would be kind of cool.
When you said Animal Crossing, I thought you were going to say like a 100-acre wood Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I thought
all
we were going battle
Winnie the
royale. I was like, whoa.
So before we head to the chat, because I don't want them to steal my idea, I'm going to throw this out here, and I'm just going to say a developer and a franchise, and I think you'll get it. Here it is. You ready for this?
Sure.
Blizzard, Star Wars.
Ooh.
Okay.
Give
in.
me my Clone Wars strategy game developed by Blizzard.
Blizzard scares me lately, though, so I don't know. But
They do.
That is true, but Blizzard at
Can-
their best is amazing.
Can I rewind and
That's
say
their
like
comeback game.
late 90s, early 2000s Blizzard?
that's
There we
fair.
go.
That's fair.
Like I would love there to be, because to my knowledge, I don't think there's ever been a Star Wars strategy game. There's been like
Probably on the phone.
there's one that's like Forces of Destiny or something, like it's almost like Kingdom Rush or whatever, where you send the units back and forth. But I'm talking about like commanding unit, like
You want
legions
an
of units.
RTS?
Yeah, like
Yes.
a StarCraft.
Yes,
Star Wars,
I
yeah.
just want StarCraft with Star Wars, and I want different campaigns. Like I want to be able to control the Separatists, and I want to be able to control, move it forward into the Rebellion, and then even DLC. You can do the new trilogy. You can do all
Yeah.
that. It would be so cool to see all that. Either be the droids or be the clones. And have
Yes.
major moments from the movies, but also fill in the gaps. I'm telling you.
RTS, an RTS game. That'd be cool.
And what would be even cooler is use this awesome processing power and all this stuff that we have right now, and have it where I can zoom in from space onto the planet where the battle's going on, command my planetary forces, and then zoom back out to space and command my
a
ships
space battle.
up there.
Ooh.
There you go.
Ambitious. Yeah.
All right,
I mean,
I
there's
wanna hear
definitely
these-
enough there, like in the lore, all the vehicles and stuff. There's definitely
Yes,
enough.
that's what I'm talking about. Like,
Yeah.
can you imagine playing a mission that is the Battle of Scarif from Rogue One?
Ooh.
I mean, come on. God. Now I
I
want
was
this
thinking
game too.
too. I was thinking even from whoever develops the Age of Empires games, I think
Oh,
would
yeah.
be kind of cool if you went back, not necessarily tell what you're saying from a StarCraft point of view, the stories we know, but maybe starting, thousands of years before any of the stories we're familiar with, to kind of build out just like you do in Age of Empires. It's just start from just a few people starting out, and then they start, are they force sensitive culture? Are they not? And do you, I think there's a lot there that could be done on the Age of Empire side.
Yeah, I
too,
mean,
using
like,
that
when we typically think of a Star Wars game, we think about flying with space combat, or we think about we got to control somebody who's swinging a lightsaber around and using the Force, and like Jedi Fallen Order. But man, there's so many genres of games that could tap into, and it still be really authentically Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
But
You can
the
just have
thing is,
like regular shooting elements with the blasters.
yeah,
Thinking back, like when I used to play the Lego Star Wars games, I think the blaster characters were the least interesting. I preferred the lightsaber characters, but of course every mission can't have a lightsaber character. They still mix it up, but at least they had that mix of other weapon types in there.
sure, yeah. So let's hear some of these chat ideas.
Okay, Blurpy24 says a Herbie racing game.
Herbie the Love Bug.
Yeah.
Nice.
He also mentions a redo of Rescue Rangers.
Ooh.
Yes.
Avery Cope says a BioWare developed X-Men title in the vein
Oh
of
yeah.
Knights of the Old
yeah.
Republic, a sandbox mutant power game,
That's real good.
and a Mario Party with a Disney IP. And
I'd buy that.
He says Blizzard would amputate Star Wars.
Probably.
Wait, going back to the Mario Party one, didn't they try that with Tsum Tsum stuff?
Oh yeah. I forgot about that. I honestly forgot about that.
I don't
They
think I ever
did.
knew about that. I
Yeah.
know nothing about Tsum Tsum, and it goes in one ear, not the other, and I'm
Yeah,
okay with that.
We got that for my daughter for Christmas. She played it 3 times.
Oh man.
I'm thinking it's not good. But yeah, man, this I think we could sit around the horn here and just shoot ideas all night long. But I think that the main thing is that to take away from this is that with the success of these IP and these games, that Disney is getting serious about game development again, and it's something that we haven't seen for a while outside of Kingdom Hearts, right? And so I'm interested to see. It is like it's very obvious that we will get a Jedi Fallen Order sequel. It's going to happen.
Oh yeah.
Or something else like that. There's been a rumbling of like Knights of the Old Republic getting a remaster or something like that, because those it was Darth Revan that was in that one, right? That's canonical now due to the Star Wars Episode 9. One of the battalions was named the Revan Battalion or something like that. So there's a talk of that coming around again. I would love to play like the Knights of the Old Republic story done in the style of Jedi Fallen Order. I think that would be cool. But anyway, tons of speculation we could do here. The main thing here that we need to talk about that's sad is that none of these games would ever come to Nintendo Switch. Because they'd all be owned by EA. So, there are games right now that could come to the Nintendo Switch, like the Disney Afternoon Collection, that are not for some crazy reason. But
I don't understand the EA Switch thing. I honestly don't.
No,
I
You
don't
know what?
get
I
it.
actually have a question about that, Benji, that I actually wrote down to ask you.
Perfect.
Are there any numbers that would convince or deter EA from developing games for the Switch? I'm trying to figure out, because like I mentioned earlier, it baffles me why EA, and I know a lot of people fight me on this too. It's a business. I understand that. So, okay, I'm looking at it from a business perspective. And I know the argument is EA says most of our players, the numbers show most of our players play on other consoles and not Nintendo. But
because the games are there.
well, yeah, because you're putting the games there, and the games you've put on Nintendo consoles sucked. You didn't put enough effort behind them, at least in my opinion. And I could be wrong. I heard the 3DS game for the last 3DS game they made, the NFL one, the Madden one, was actually pretty good, or at least people just want it because it was the last one. But yeah, I was just wondering if you've seen any numbers or anything that would support EA's decision on, because to me it seems like it would be they want money, they like money, so let's develop a game that let's put some decent effort behind something that would sell to that audience.
So here's my thought. I think kind of 2 thoughts. One is that partially depends on the game and the scope, right? So like I don't think it's really feasible to put, like when they were making Anthem at the time, I don't really think that would have worked on the Switch. That particular game, I just don't think it would have been a good fit. But to the stance to where it's like EA's at, where it's like we're not putting basically anything on the Switch, or so like very low effort. The numbers don't back that up, in my opinion. I've seen plenty of third-party games sell very strong, including M-rated games like Mortal Kombat and Doom. So there is most definitely an audience on the Switch for these third-party, adult oriented, targeted, like these M-rated games. I'm not saying like everything even needs to be M. They can put E-rated games, but there's an audience there. Nintendo's kind of known for their first party, right? That's why a lot of us go out and will buy a Nintendo system. But, that's the main draw for sure. But yeah, the stance that they take to me is weird. You're seeing plenty of other publishers put games on the Switch. Plenty. You're seeing Activision with games. You're seeing 2K putting games. You're seeing Bethesda putting games. So for EA to really not do much, there's a couple. They'll do like the FIFA Legacy, like something like that. But yeah, they really should be doing more, I think. I definitely think there's a market there.
Yeah. And I think another person, in fact, our last guest last week brought up Witcher 3.
Yeah.
That was brought to the Switch. That they didn't believe it sold as well as they needed it to. That that company, I forget their name, who developed the Witcher game? It was
CD Projekt Red.
Yes, that they said their sales were okay. So I don't know if there was any numbers out there that would support, that their effort was worthwhile, or if it's something that EA also looks at. I don't know if it's public or not, but if EA looks at it and says, well, look at Witcher, they put all that effort into it and it didn't sell well.
It's also harder to compare putting Witcher on the Switch versus other systems that it's now a 2-year-old game, as opposed to putting him out there day and date with the other systems.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
That is true. And it's my argument's always been just put some effort behind, I'm still baffled why they don't put a Madden game on there, because you could still, I know Frozen, the Frostbite engine isn't one that would probably work on the Switch, but I always thought that the nostalgia people would buy it, and even some of the football fans would buy it if they went back to, say, their SNES look, the 94, 95, 96 look, and just had a new roster.
I would appreciate that.
Call that a legacy edition. Don't give us last year's game with a new year on it and call it done.
Just change the roster, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think EA's kind of all in on like really, really profitable. You know what I mean? Maybe they look at some of their games and they're like, yeah, we could do okay with this on the Switch, but we'd rather just focus all of our efforts on, FIFA, Ultimate, online card stuff and things like this, But if the question strictly is, if we're just looking at it as, are there third-party games that definitely can sell well on Switch? Absolutely. I still think I've taken the stance, especially with the install base continuing to grow. If it makes sense, if it's not super impossible to get your game ported to the system, I don't see why you'd ignore it. I just don't see why.
At this point, I think you're right. I mean, what you said earlier, NDA and all that, but I mean, we're all pretty sure that they've passed Xbox One now in terms of lifetime sales.
Yeah, they have.
And so kind of the whole, we only support next gen consoles that are profitable argument goes out the window when the game's on Xbox One. And then it becomes, we are lazy and we don't want to try to do anything else.
It's easy to port between PS4 and Xbox One because they run on the same architecture. The Switch does not. It requires
just
effort.
less effort.
And it's less powerful, so they have to tweak things down, and they don't want to do that. And we lost him, but hopefully he comes back.
Yeah, hopefully he does. Since Tim's gone and we're kind of winding this down, let's move on to what we've been playing. All right, Benji, this is your time to shine here. Again, guests on Nintendo Dads go first. So what we do here is we just kind of try to do a brief flyover of what we've been playing so it doesn't get a little long in the tooth. But tell us what you've been playing lately.
Yeah, so in terms of Switch first, I'm still chipping away at Pokemon Sword. That's a game I didn't like. I don't sit there and play like huge stretches of Pokemon Sword. I kind of jump into it, a couple times a week, play it for, a couple hours. That's kind of the way I approach Pokemon. I didn't rush through it. So I'm still chipping away at Sword, and I'm playing a lot of Ring Fit Adventure. I actually really like it. I've been playing a lot of Ring Fit. Those are kind of the two I've been focused on Switch right now. I'm actually getting ready to play Xenoblade Chronicles 2 for the first time. Haven't started that yet, but I've heard pretty good things. And then outside of Nintendo, I've been playing a lot of Rainbow Six Siege and The Witcher 3, which we were just talking about. I've been replaying The Witcher 3 after I watched the Witcher Netflix show. It made me want to jump back into The Witcher 3 game, so I'm replaying that too.
I know nothing about the Witcher franchise, but I still want to watch that Netflix show. I haven't seen it yet, but I want to.
Yeah. It's good. It can be a little confusing with the timeline stuff. I won't go into any spoilers, but it can be a little confusing at times keeping
My
track
wife has
of
watched
things.
it, which surprised me that she wanted
Yeah.
to. But
it's good. I thought
she-
they did a good job.
she knew nothing of the franchise either.
Hmm.
So she knows more than I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be going into it blind as well. I don't know anything about the franchise other than what I've played of 3.
Yeah.
So, which is admittedly not that much. Tim's back, but while he's coming back, Jesse, why don't you tell us what you have been playing as well?
All right. So I followed up on your recommendation. I tried 1980X, and I think it was the 4th stage, the one that's kind of like Strider.
The one I told you you'd hate?
And you are not wrong. And yeah, when they started putting bottomless pits in there, I'm like, all right, I'm out. So it's like that was the 3rd stage of that section. Is that the last stage at least, or is there more garbage after that?
There's a boss fight at the end of that stage.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, I was interested in seeing what the last stage is. You told me about sounded interesting, but I'm probably never going to see it. But at least if I get back to it, I can at least start at that 4th stage, but I have to start at the beginning and then go through the first 2 pieces of it over again, which basically I have to rememorize the jumps and ducks and whatnot. I didn't even know you can duck until the 3rd part of it.
Yeah,
And you have to.
That is the only thing about that game that I would say is a gripe at all, is that they do nothing to explain the buttons. Like, they don't do anything to help you out, which makes it very nostalgic, right?
Right. Okay. So that was a few hours gone. It didn't take long to get through what I did get through, but I may or may not get back to it. I don't know yet. So speaking of Netflix shows, I watched Dragon Quest: Your Story, which I think I talked a little bit about when that was originally announced. It was in Japanese theaters last year. Finally came to North America, English dubbed on Netflix, and it's more or less the story of Dragon Quest V. And I knew, without going into spoilers, I knew the ending was debatable about people's liking it or not. Some people think it's a great way to end it. Some people are like, nah. And I think I'm in the nah section. I don't like how it ended. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, watch it and then let me know what you think. So
I've got it in my queue.
If you've never played a Dragon Quest game before, that's fine. The first part of the movie does kind of seem like it's going fast, but the movie tells you what you need to know to understand the bulk of the movie. So you're not really missing out by not knowing the story in advance. But if you think you want to play the game before watching the movie, so you're not spoiled by anything, that might be a good idea too. But after I watched the movie, I wanted to replay the game, so I put my Dragon Quest V Hand of the Heavenly Bride cart in my 3DS and played about 5 minutes before it soft locked.
Oh man.
So next day I tried it again. I got about 10 minutes in before the soft locked. So I'm like, okay, I don't know if it's the system or the cart, because I think this is the first time I ever put a cart into that system. I bought it about a year ago. Most of my library is digital, so I'm like, so my kids found They're old DS Lite.
Whoa.
The thing even had a charge. I don't know how long it's been lying around.
Wow.
And so I put the card in and played it. I played it for an hour and a half before it needed to be plugged in. I had to buy an adapter.
That is incredible.
Once I got to about the 30-minute mark, I ordered one from Amazon and came the next day, so I was able to charge it. And I am now
That's fantastic.
about 5 or 6 hours in. So the cart is perfectly fine. So I think the problem is the cartridge port in my 3DS. So I'm debating about whether I was going to leave it as is or send it in and risk having that other things happen to it. Again, I know I play very few 3DS games, but I own enough that I would like to have a game work. So I don't know what it'll do. Anyway, so Dragon Quest V before playing 11 has been my favorite game. It's because I like how the story. It's a multi-generational story. So I just reached the first time skip. So you start out, you're 6 years old, and now I'm 16.
I didn't realize you were that young.
I wish I was sometimes.
I was going to throw it to Tim here and get his what he's been playing, but unfortunately, is he here?
I'm here.
He's
you're
voice
just,
only.
I don't see you. Okay, your voice only. I thought you were gone. Tim, what have you been playing?
Well, this shouldn't take too long. I'm still playing Luigi's Mansion 3. Just beat the 10th level and moving on to the 11th level. So that's basically what I've been playing. And I guess Mario Kart 2, Mario Kart 8 as well to do the monthly mayhem stuff, trying to improve my records. But that's about it.
Yeah, I actually haven't gotten to play many games this week either. It's been kind of a busy week. But today, I played a lot of Fortnite today as Chapter 2, Season 2 is officially upon us. And both my son and I bought the Battle Pass, and I was level 10 before you knew it. There is something about this game that, I dropped off around season 5 or 6 of last chapter and didn't come back until chapter 2 launched. And since then, it has just become a whole new game for me. And I know that a lot of people have said the same thing. I love the new improvements, and I love the spy theme of this season. It's got a lot of really cool elements going on. Without spoiling a lot of things, you get to pick your faction. When you get to level 20, you either get to go with Ghost or Shadow, and that changes your characters that you earn through the Battle Pass for the rest of the Battle Pass. Like they're either black or white themed, and there's new locations on the map that are occupied by henchmen, who it's very spy movie-esque. So you drop in and you're taking them out and stealing their weapons. And one thing that I thought was really interesting about this season is that the characters that you can earn are actually enemies on the map at these locations.
Oh,
so
interesting.
the henchmen are, some of them are real deadly and some aren't, but these guys are like Ace, and they come after you. And if you infiltrate these bases and are foraging around for stuff, you're going to get one of those on you, and you're going to have to defeat them. And when you do, it drops it drops their special weapon.
Yeah, it's amazing how Fortnite always finds a way to bring people back. I have so many friends that have done the same thing. They've fallen off for a while, and then they always come back. They're so good at that.
And the big attraction for this season is that Deadpool is a secret character. And so when you first see the movie, when it launches, you can see him in the background a couple of times, and then he you can find him in the Battle Pass area. You can find his hideout, and he gives you these missions. And they're weekly missions, but the mission this week was, don't thank the bus driver.
How do you
So
do
it's
that?
very Deadpool. So when you're dropping, Jesse, when the bus driver's carrying you over the map, you can press the down arrow on the D-pad to thank the bus driver. It's just a little thing so you can drop without thanking him. And if you do that, then you complete that Deadpool mission.
That is funny.
And so
That's
like
awesome.
the way it's doing is working up like all like weekly missions do that, but there's also one of the skins that you get this time is a completely customizable Fortnite skin called Maya, who has 3.6 million possible combinations.
Whoa.
So as you do the challenges, you can unlock, like this week it's being able to unlock hair customization, and you can do one of 4 hair types. Next week it's tattoos. Next week it's so it's bringing you back the whole time with daily challenges, with challenges for the other characters, but now challenges for Deadpool and Maya. So there's tons to do for like $10.
That's cool.
So I'm really into it. It's pretty good.
I wonder if there's going to be a tie-in, because you mentioned the espionage type aspect. I wonder if there's going to be a tie-in to the 007 franchise, because that movie comes out in April.
Possibly, because the battle pass is set to end April 20th.
Ooh.
Okay.
So there you go.
Maybe, yeah. Didn't they tie it in with John Wick before too?
Yes, they
Yes.
Yeah, so
Star
they
Wars.
they definitely do the movie tie-ins, so it's possible.
In fact, Star Wars had like an exclusive trailer play in game before.
Mm.
Yeah,
Isn't that
yeah.
crazy?
did. And like the thing is that when you go see Episode 9 and it says at the beginning that the Emperor's voice had been heard, you know where that came from? Fortnite. That was the only place that was shown.
Oh, that's
That
wild.
intergalactic message, the intergalactic message that ties into the front of Episode 9 was in Fortnite.
That is crazy.
It is crazy. Guys,
It's
let's
canon.
dive into our community spotlight here for just a second. Guys, tonight we want to turn the community spotlight on and spin it around over onto Benji Sales. And Benji, we are so glad that you have come and be a part of the show tonight.
Thanks, I've had a
It's
blast.
been awesome. It's been so much fun talking to you. So if you could just take a minute, tell people who you are, what you do, and where they can interact with you online. We want to get
Yeah.
them connected to you.
Yeah, so Benji Sales is the best way to find me on Twitter. I'm just at Benji Sales. That's where I'm by far the most active. I also have a YouTube, which is the same thing, Benji Sales. I don't upload a ton onto YouTube. I do these things called like live chats, where I just talk with people and interact on there, and we talk about the video game industry. I do those. I try to do them about once a week. But the best way to get a hold of me is definitely on Twitter. The main thing I talk about is, of course, video game sales, the video game industry, things like that. I also, will tweet a little bit just about game news in general, but kind of like the main focus is numbers and the business side of the gaming industry, because that's just like a big passion of mine. So that's really the two places to find me, Twitter and YouTube, for sure.
Awesome. And so how long have you been doing this? Like, how long have you been like working with the games industry, games analytics, that kind of thing?
So it all starts like in terms of my interest in it. Man, I've been doing it for a really long time. It's funny that the thing that turned me on to it way back in the day was GameTrailers.com was the first forum I ever joined. That was the first video game forum I was in. And randomly one day I was in a thread there, and someone posted about Fable sales, like the sales of the video game Fable. And I just never had really looked at sales info before, and I just found it super interesting because Fable was a game I was like really into, and I was like, oh, this is interesting seeing how many people play this game that I like. So that's really where it started. Then after that, I got into the retail side of the gaming industry, started low, worked my way up high, did that for many, many, many years. And then I branched off and I did a lot of forum talking about the industry, and I started realizing that a lot of people really like to hear my thoughts on it. So about 2 years ago, well, actually, probably less than that now. I guess it was about a year and a half ago. I spiraled off onto Twitter and YouTube, and the response has been really, really strong. I've had a lot of people reach out to me, and even some gaming companies and things like this, and ask my opinion on what I think about the video game industry and things like that. So it's kind of just been a steady growth for a really long time. But I would say in a quote, a really effort. Probably the last probably 2 or 3 years is really whenever I've really doubled down on it.
Yeah, it's really fun to see how things that we're passionate about become things that we're able to do and have a medium for, right? Like obviously with you, with videos and Twitter and forums, with us, with the podcast, and how it's funny to me that something like this that we do on a weekly basis, it's kind of like just a bunch of guys sitting around talking about something we love, right? And that's why it's easy. Is I mean, there's difficulty to it, there's work to it, there's passion you pour into it, and time and energy. But at the end of the day, it's something you enjoy. You do it because you enjoy it, right? And I love that because I'm totally not a numbers guy. I like to look at it and go, oh yeah, Mario Kart sold 23 million. Yeah, that's really cool. But to hear you say that, that's how you got into it, it's I really got interested in this. And then the more I got interested, it kind of steamrolled. It's kind of like this. How in the world did I end up doing a podcast? Well, started with love for Nintendo, and it started with a love for Nintendo turned into I know way too much about Nintendo. And now I want to tell people all the things about Nintendo. Yeah. And I need somebody to talk to other than my wife, who doesn't care anything about Nintendo. Here we are.
Yeah, it's good to have that outlet.
It's wonderful. So, man, again, we're so glad to have you on the show. And listeners, if you want to go over and connect with Benji on Twitter and YouTube, I know he'll appreciate that, and I know there's a ton of insight coming out of his channels. I'm excited about that.
Thank you.
Up there, Jesse, I think we've got a voicemail about Pokemon, right?
Yes.
All right, let's hear that.
Okay.
Hey, Dads, this is Warren. I got a question probably for Jesse. I just watched a Game Explain video about transferring a Zigzagoon from Gen 3 Pokemon all the way up through Sword and Shield. And I was fascinated by it, but I'm wondering a few things that I didn't really know how else to find out this information. In Sword and Shield, I heard something about not having a national dex. I'm not exactly sure what that means. Does that mean that there are some Pokemon from older generations that I would not be able to transfer all the way through because they're not actually in the game? There's no models for them. So I would get it all the way up to the current generation and then find out I can't actually transfer it in. That's one question. Another question is, in the video, they went from Pokemon Home. Once they got it, the Pokemon into Pokemon Home, they went straight to Sword and Shield. Could I take the Pokemon from, if it was a Gen 1 Pokemon or whatever, could I take it into Pokemon Let's Go, Eevee or Pikachu, then back to Pokemon Home, and then back to Sword and Shield to count that almost as another generation that I'm playing it through? Also, is there a way to go from the Game Boy originals on the 3DS Virtual Console through whatever transfer systems backwards into Gen 3 and then move it forward from there? Basically, I want to be able to have a Gen 1 Pokemon team and transfer it all the way up, but I know you can't do that on the original Game Boy games. So I'm wondering if there's a way to transfer it backwards from the 3DS and then move forward from there. So very specific questions. I'm wondering if you guys could address that. Thanks.
And now stepping up to the plate from Kansas City, Missouri, it's Jesse Waldeck. The pitch, the swing.
All right, so I don't necessarily remember all the questions in all the orders, but the first one about about not having the National Dex and Sword and Shield. Yes, that's exactly what it means. Not all of the models are in the game yet. That was the whole Dexit thing that caused a controversy, months before that launched. Um, and then with the 2 new updates coming later this year, we'll add 200ish more. So I think there's 400 in the Galar decks. Plus, there's a small number. I don't know what the full number is. Of Pokemon that are available to be transferred in that aren't part of the 400, but there are another set that are not available yet, and some of them will be with the updates, and some of them just won't be ever. And you'll know which one once a Pokemon is in home. When you set up a transfer from home to the Sword and Shield, you'll see like a big red circle slash showing you this Pokemon can't be transferred. So, like the Gen 7 starters can be transferred to Gen 8. And my son's currently trying to shiny egg hatch them now. I don't know. So, and currently, there's an app called Poke Transporter that you can download onto your 3DS. That will transfer Pokemon from the Gen 5 games. I also I'm guessing DSi as well if it's Gen 5. So black, white, black 2, white 2, and then all of the virtual console versions. Red, blue, yellow, gold, crystal, silver. That app will let you transfer Pokemon from those games into Bank, which is a separate service from home, $5 a year to subscribe to that. So anything directly from Gen 3 you can't do it. You'd have to go through the mechanism using a DS Lite to transfer Gen 3 games into Gen 4 and then transfer the Gen 4 into 5 before you can then get them into Bank. So that's kind of it's still possible, but not a one-step thing. Once you have the Pokemon into Bank with a subscription to home, you can transfer them to Bank to home. And all these transfers are one ways. Once they're in, they can't come back out. Up to this point, I don't know if Pokemon from say Yellow can be transferred into the Let's Go games. I think that might be Sword and Shield only. But a Pokemon from a Let's Go game can go into home and then into another Let's Go game and back. But once you have a Pokemon from Let's Go and you put it into home, then you put it in the Sword and Shield, it cannot go back to the Let's Go's. You can just bounce back and forth between home and the Sword and Shield games. So, I think that covered all the questions. I don't know, did I?
I'm impressed.
Thank you.
That's why I said Jesse was stepping up to the plate, because it's out of here.
Yeah, so I did the only research I had to do was to remember what the name of the app was, called the Poke Transporter, to get the older games into Bank. At that point, everything was just stuff that I have remembered from talking about this a few weeks ago.
That's impressive, because that's a lot to remember.
I don't really play the games. I still got to the 4th gym area and stopped. My son's the one who farms the hell out of it. Yeah, he told me with a home you can mass release up to 100 Pokemon at a time, and you would think, why would you do that? And my answer is, if you've seen his bank, he has 100 Litten in it. He doesn't want them anymore. Gone. Because he's trying to get the shiny Litten.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So.
All right, and did we have another voicemail, or did we just have questions from here on?
No more voicemails. We have 2 questions. We have one from Christopher Loggle and another from Mecha Dragon.
All right, so let's get to this question from Christopher first. He says, "My question: should I get a Switch Lite for myself, or just play on the OG Switch with my kids?" Here's what I'm going to say to this question. It depends on your needs. And here's why I went the Switch Lite route for myself while leaving a Switch at home. And that is that we get a lot of review codes and we get a lot of games in that I either get for the show or we get review codes for. And inevitably, my kids want to play those. And so what I found is that even though I bought my son a Switch and my daughter has a Switch Lite, they'll play on mine because, hey, there's this brand new interesting game on there, and I have a 400 gigabyte SD card on there. So what I decided to do was turn that into my, quote, home base Switch. And so it's the one I download all my games on for review and all of that. It's the one that stays connected to the TV. It's constantly at home. I got the Switch Lite so that I could go on the go and I could download just a selection of games, right? Games I was currently very interested in playing, and it would do just the minor internet check, and I'd be able to take that along, and I would be able to leave that Switch at home so that they can play all the games they want whenever they want them, right? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Now, that may not work for you as a family, Christopher, but if you find yourself traveling a lot or you find yourself I just like the form factor of the Switch Lite too. In fact, I much prefer to play on my Switch Lite because 75% of the time I'm playing handheld anyway because my wife's watching, Downton Abbey or whatever. The Crown. I watch a lot of British dramas, so it just makes it easier. So I love the Switch Lite. The thing is that if you don't have that situation where your kids are wanting to play games a lot of time and they're taking it away from you or taking up time you'd be able to play, then I can't really recommend a Lite. Other than it's neat, it's cool. I wanted both Switches. And what about the rest of you guys? What do you think?
I've been debating that myself since the Lite came out. I've kind of wanted one just because they seem cool. I like how like you said, the form factor, it seems pretty cool, but I haven't gotten one yet myself. Right now, I just have the OG Switch, but I've definitely thought about it. I've been tempted by the Lite since it came out, but right now I just have the OG.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm probably not the best one to answer this because, we were, at the end of year one, we were a 4-Switch household. We treated the Switch like we treated the 3DSs. Each person that buys their own and doesn't get moved around from person to person. My kids are obviously older, so, they have the jobs, so they can buy their own. Now I'm down to a 1-Switch family because the other 3 have all moved out and they've taken their Switches with them. So yeah, in my case, the Switch Lite really hasn't appealed to me because most of my gaming, with the exception of playing Dragon Quest and Tokyo Mirage Sessions the last few months, have been handheld. Those big RPGs I still played on the TV because not Tokyo Mirage Sessions because that was designed for a Wii U, but this small print makes it hard to read on a 6-inch screen, and trying to play that on a 5-inch screen on the Switch Lite would make that all the more difficult. But I think most games you're not going to really have a problem.
Yeah. Tim, you got any input there?
Yeah, for me it was I was tempted. Definitely when it came out, especially that Pokemon one. I thought the Pokemon Switch Lite was pretty cool looking. But I was thankfully my wife got one, so I can look at it and touch it, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. She got one, and then later my son, he had one like Jesse's family when they got the one year one. My son got his year one at Christmas from Santa Claus, of course. Or actually, no, he got it from his parents. That's right, that was from his parents. But anyways. Yeah, he wanted to get the Lite because he mostly plays handheld. He didn't hardly play in the TV, so he traded his in for a Lite as well. So I have 2 people who have Lites here, and so I got my fill of that, and I'm grateful for that experience because I really like the experience, the OG experience of being able to play on the go and having the choice to play on a bigger screen if I want to dock it and play.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And We could probably talk circles around this, but I think the Switch Lite is why I predicted Nintendo would do a TV only Switch Pro at some point. But with them saying they're not going to release any new iterations of hardware this year, probably not going to see it. So they shot my dreams down.
Well,
It could be within the fiscal year.
yeah, that was that people has turned that to mean it doesn't mean it's not going to happen March 2021 before the end of the fiscal year.
Right.
Yeah,
the
good.
4-year anniversary.
Yep.
All right, so we've
Could
got
happen.
this. We've got this last email from Mecha Dragon 101, who, man, he is constantly writing into the show, and I super appreciate that. Love his questions. He says this. He said, I hope all your guys are doing well. My question for you this week is the following. As you said multiple times, you all have your main job while also doing content for YouTube and Twitch on Nintendo Dads. Have any of you guys considered being full-time with content creation to the point where you had to quit your current job and become a full-time YouTuber? Do you think that's a dangerous road to go through? Hope this question makes sense. Can't wait to see you dads again soon. Any of you guys wanna go first?
Think about
on
it
this
all
one?
the time. I think about that all the time. I think that would be awesome because I love creating content. I mean, I like dabbling in the video, and I know there's people that are much better at it than I am. I'm not even going to pretend like I'm really good at it, but I enjoy creating. So I'll have fun dabbling and doing the videos. I like making those thumbnails for you guys, all that kind of stuff. So, and then doing these, it would be totally awesome to be able to perfect it and get better at it and do it full time. But I know it's not going to happen. So it's just like, I can dream, right? If I won the lottery, great. I would do it full time.
Okay. Well, while content creation is fun from time to time, I found myself procrastinating with that one Tokyo Mirage Sessions project I've been talking about. At least I got to the point where I've written 75% of the script and realized since it's been a while since I've written anything since I graduated college, I was mentally exhausted after writing like the 2 pages that I did write, and I know I have about at least a half page left to go before I did record some footage. I know I've got to go back and record more, and I haven't even started editing anything or recording a voiceover yet. So it's a very slow process for me. I would never be able to do it well enough, consistently enough to turn it into a career. And my current W-2 job, I make more money than I would never make doing anything else, so I'd never leave it. This next month I'll be at my job for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Think of whatever base pay is, double it, or
Right.
multiply it by 120%, and that's probably just with your normal pay raises every year, and that's that's the type of money I'm looking at after having that job for 20 years. So yeah, I'm not ready to walk away from that yet.
Yeah, I think for me, like the answer is different in that, and I won't spend too much time on it, but the answer is it's not so much of a job as I believe it's a calling, and so I don't feel like I'm supposed to do anything else, and so that's why I do what I do. And so I can't imagine my life not doing what I do on a daily basis, which if you're a new listener to the show, I'm a student pastor at a church. And so I don't see myself doing anything else, but I love this part of it because this is a part of my life where I feel like a lot of what I do follows me 24/7. This is a part of my life where I just simply get to talk about something I'm super passionate about and I love. And it's completely disconnected from the other thing.
Well, while you have a chance to talk to the teens, I'm sure gives you a chance to at least talk to adults.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, adult time is always good as well. And so, like, I like this weekend, I've got a big event starting tomorrow night. That's an overnight event that we're doing. And so like there's times where I'm away, like the past couple of years, I haven't been able to do E3. This year I'm actually going to get to do it. I'm actually going to get to be here and talk about it as it happens instead of like waiting a week and then talking about it. But I mean, that's minor inconveniences. And so do I think that I'll ever do content creation full time? Probably not, like unless something drastic happens. But I love doing what I do. For me, I don't think it's viable full time. But I enjoy this break. I enjoy this part of it. What about you, Benji?
Yeah, for me, it's the content creation part, like doing the videos and stuff like that. It's definitely more of a passion thing. It's one of those things. Like I think sometimes like it sounds like it'd be so awesome to just full time create content, but as you were saying earlier, sometimes it's a challenge to you got to put a lot of time and work into some stuff. So it's a full shift. If you want to become a full-time content creator, you got to dedicate so much effort to it. So right now I'm just doing it as an enjoyment thing, as doing it as like a way of channeling my passion. I don't want to be stressing over it. So in terms of the content creation part, the other side, like the analyst side, that I am working, more towards becoming a full-fledged analyst in the field. That's a totally separate thing, but the content creation side for sure, that's more just a passion. It would take a lot of effort to do that full time, and I just don't think I have like the time and the resources to do something like that. But I do love doing it. I do love making the videos and talking with people.
Yeah, because we know such a thing is possible. Game Explain, at least 3 people, so that's their full-time job, and they make enough revenue through YouTube, through I peeked at their Patreon. They don't make they make their Patreon's bigger than ours, but not enough to be full time on for one person, much less 3 people and some part timers. So
gotcha, and that's the thing about like I guess this thing that we do is there can only be so many kind of funnies, right?
Yeah, it's very true.
So it's not that I mean. Full disclosure, like everything that we get via Patreon or YouTube or anything goes back into a fund that helps defray the cost of games and travel and all kinds of stuff. So it's not like we're living high on the hog, right? And I mean,
or in one case, computer hardware for me. Otherwise, we wouldn't have anything to record with.
That's exactly right. Like
when my motherboard blew up.
There's been times when Justin's had to come to us and be like, "All right, guys, whoa, whoa." Like you see this? That's how much we have. And so, but we still love doing it. And the thing for me is like looking at the full-time content creator side of it or this, like I would say this, like I would do this happily if there was nothing, right? Like, cause I just love it. And I enjoy my Thursday nights. And I enjoy being a part of the Nintendo Dads team. I would do it.
There's another aspect of it too that I forgot to mention that I actually looked into, but I know I don't have the background to jump into it, and that's the community manager aspect of it. Because I started off on the Nintendo Dads doing the community management stuff in Discord. And I was looking at how to, looking at other real life community managers to get best practices from them to bolster how we run ours. And, that's a real job for people. And, they go to college and communications type of thing, I think, to get degrees in that area. And I don't have that, but, I did explore that. And I think that's another area I think would be kind of cool that would go along with the content thing. So it wouldn't just be all just content. It would also be, managing the community for a brand, which in this case would be the Nintendo Dads. So
I definitely think that there is room to break out into stuff even without a background. It's just, it's all about how much effort, you're willing to put in and how much focus and kind of making that balance between am I enjoying it, or is it just a lot of pressure? And like you were saying, there is only so many kind of funny and easy allies and things like this. So it's all it's definitely a market not with a ton of jobs. I think people think maybe there's like more room than there is, but there is still some that you definitely can break out. But it'll definitely take some work, like in terms of making it like a full-time thing, not just for an enjoyment. You'd really have to put some effort in for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, guys, we're going to wrap it up here. We actually had one other question over in our Patreon from Kat Jander, Dan Caparello. And we're going to save that for next week because this has already been a giant-sized edition of Nintendo Dads. But we do want to thank Benji Sales for coming on and being a part of episode 268.
Thank you.
We would love to have you back sometime.
Absolutely. I had a blast.
We wish you a ton of success in all the things you're doing. I know that, if you don't mind me saying, I noticed on your Twitter this week that you, or recently you mentioned changing jobs and doing some things there. And so, man, we want to wish you lots of luck on that and whatever the future holds for you.
Thank you so much.
And say thank you for being on the show. And we want to say thank you to you for listening to episode 268. As we close out the show, we also want to say thank you to our Patreon producers. That's Chris Mears, Dave Ernsberger, Sean Abbott, and Antonio Contronio. We thank you guys for being locked in on Patreon at the producer level. And you can get locked in on Patreon as well by going over to patreon.com/Nintendo Dads for as little as $1 a month. You can be part of our Discord and all the other stuff that's going on over there. You can check us out at our website, which is nintendodads.org. That has all of our latest YouTube videos, tweets, podcast episodes, links to our social media, our Patreon page, as well as a place to find our merch, phone cases, stickers, shirts, all that stuff right over there at nintendodads.org. You can find us on the socials at anywhere there's social media, Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube. Just type in Nintendo Dads. Boom. We're there. You can also email us at nintendodads@gmail.com. That's the address, nintendodads@gmail.com. You can also call in and leave a voicemail, just like Warren did, at 929-25-NDADS or 929-256-3237. We want to say a big thanks to OC Remix for the music used throughout the show. And we ask that if you enjoy Nintendo Dads, head over to the podcast service of your choice, drop us a nice review, and write some kind words. It helps people find us and it helps us spread the love of Nintendo Dads out into the community at large. For me, for Jesse, and for Tim, and for Benji, this has been episode 268 of Nintendo Dads. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Nintendo Dads.